All right, welcome everybody. Didn't have any topics on the agenda item today. I don't know, does anybody have anything they need to talk about? So reason we set this up, we weren't getting a lot of updates originally. Wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. So set up a weekly sync to talk about any topics that have come up. There's been some good communication on the issues this week, and it seems like we're making some good progress. So anything we need to cover today? Probably Kenny and Alexi are the most involved, and Camille's here.
Yeah, Camille and I had a good discussion on one of those threads where I was just a little bit concerned about us having scope creep or putting blockers to the beginning of accumulation of minutes on public projects on GitLab.com. My mind is clear of that now, so yeah, I think we're good moving forward. I do think that over the last week since our last sync, that the addition of that issue about adjusting which runner tags we're using for GitLab projects itself has kind of expanded to now include folks from various other teams. So maybe if those team members have questions about the intent or scope or background, I can answer them. Oh, sorry. These updates, those updates you just put in, Craig, were those from different place in the doc or from Slack?
I think it's Camille.
Yeah,
I copied that from the Slack
Okay,
message. Cool. Probably like the most accurate thing that I see that is also gonna answer Mac question and Kyle Weber's question that they might have.
So, yeah, I mean, Mech, Kyle, Alex, Tomasz, you're kind of new to this effort. If you have questions about scope that I can answer, otherwise we can jump into tactical stuff. Sounds like, Mech, you had some questions below.
No, I think we're clear. Okay. Just want to, we can go into tactical because I think the team is already looking at how to track the runners. I think there's a SRM and then the GSRM tag that needs to be tracked properly, and we want all of our internal projects to be using the correct runners, correct? I think that's the
yes. Yes, so Mike, pretty much like there are two things. Like I created issue to create a documentation with description exactly how you should configure your CI if you are GitLab org. And second is like going through existing projects. And I would say that we really care today about updating projects first to which people can contribute. Because these are the projects that are relevant at this point.
Camilo, do you mean updating the tags so they use the new GitLab org tags for those projects that we have community contributions on?
Yes, so pretty much like following the issue with the documentation recommendation, updating these projects, kind of following that recommendation in the issue that is on www.gitlab.com.
Yeah, so
I guess pretty much this issue.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say that documentation issue and then keeping track of the projects that in the issue that Remy created. Those are the two items that I think we need. And then as maybe measurements, so like things in Periscope, like Remy was just active in creating a view to help provide some insight into something you're asking about in Slack. I think that's where engineering productivity we're really looking to help, is those three facets. I'm not sure if it's necessarily blocking, like what's blocking, so that we can prioritize accordingly. I think the documentation is the most important thing for us to focus in on in the short term.
Yes, I agree as well that the documentation is the most important, because I would assume that then we reach to other teams to like make these changes, because they probably know the best how to make these changes.
Mac, does that kind of help clarify?
Yeah, I think we're here to help. So let's make the scope clear what we need to deliver for this team, and then prioritize and make sure that this group is successful. One question to follow up, I think, from our group conversation, because we also gave an update on this effort, is do we know why the costs are different between internal and external runners?
I'm pretty sure I was mistaken when I spoke on that. So I think I said private runners were cheaper, and I think it's the opposite. I think it's just the machine specs that are used. Camille or Tomasz, can you speak better to the cost difference in private versus the existing shared runners?
I don't know all the details, but I would assume that the private runners are using high CPU, when shared runners are by definition of much lower specs. It's pretty much us to figure out exactly what specs we want to use. I don't know that yet, but please, Tomasz.
The difference between machine specs is not big, because we use N1 standard 1 for shared runners and N1 standard 2 for the private and GSRM runners. Also, the private runners are highly reused, while for the shared runners, each one is removed after the job is executed. So the difference is created by several variables, and counting this is not really easy.
So I mean, like, it's pretty much like, also from what I learned from you, it's part of the bigger effort. We really want to, in the end, to have all GitLab org runners in the separate billing group from general purpose shared runners, to kind of have this very clear distinction between the cost, which is kind of like hard to have today.
Yeah, exactly. That's been my understanding, is that we cannot make clear distinctions on our internal costs versus our external costs on a like per total minute consumed basis, because we don't have these distinctions. So it does help our business to be able to have a better understanding by making these distinctions.
Got it. Thank you for that. Thanks for the color. So the exit criteria here will be, I would say, once we have done all this change, let's do a review of all the offending, I don't want to use well-in terms, of the projects that needs to be moved. And if they're all on the correct runners, then I think this is good from our side to help move this forward.
Yeah, and I do want to echo Camille's point. The overarching kind of like immediate desire, and there is some engineering work that's in the pipeline today to enable this, is to start accumulating minutes on public projects that we haven't been accumulating for GitLab.com first. And so, you know, Camille's point about making sure we focus first on adjusting those projects that have community contributions, and probably start with the ones that have the highest number of community contributions. That's what we want to do, is we don't want to break the community contribution fork process by starting to accumulate minutes on those public projects. So from my perspective, this efficiency effort was scoped just to that. So the additional, hey, there's a bunch of projects that also aren't doing community contributions, but should be, because we can account for them better, is kind of a secondary benefit. So that help assert the priority.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I had a question in there, and I posed it on the channel. So are we officially targeting 13.0 for the delivery of this? Probably a question to Kenny.
My desire is as soon as possible. I think that my understanding of the sequencing is Alexei is working on the code that enables the accumulation and the feature flags to do that at the group level. Then we need to ensure that we're not going to break any forks by adjusting the projects appropriately, and have some documentation for how to do that on existing forks. And then we need to roll that out. And I don't know if it's Alex or Tomasz who would be responsible for rolling out that accumulation to GitLab.com production.
This might be too early, but I would recommend also involving Ray Peg, because he's if he needs to communicate anything with community contributions. Yeah. Yep. My pleasure. Thank you.
Did that sequencing, though, make sense to everyone? And Alex and Tomasz, I don't know what I don't have experience doing rollouts like this to GitLab.com, so I don't know if that's that can happen over the course of a couple of weeks or needs to be scheduled months out.
Well, a couple weeks is fine. It sounds like accumulating these minutes is like going to be like a rake task or something, or is it going to be just an update to the database? I'm not clear on, other than building the new runners, I'm not clear on what the infrastructure involvement is going to be.
So Alex, it's gonna be pretty simple. We're gonna flip feature flag first, and second we're gonna change runners manager configuration from the application area settings and put a value to enable this accumulation.
Cool. Yeah, then that should be fine. Building the new runners, probably week or two. I would say I'm on call this week, so probably nothing interesting happen until at least Tuesday. But other than that, building out the new runners shouldn't take a super long time.
Cool.
Camille, so as soon as possible and 13 is possible is what I'm trying to get at is that we should definitely be able to hit the 13.0 at the latest.
Are we expecting that, Alexi, are we expecting that the feature and the capability and the feature flags will be in 12.10 or 13.0?
I pretty much aiming to finish it next week. I mean, to go through all reviews and try to merge it.
Okay.
So that's my target. And since I started to talk, I wanted to ask a bit about documentation. So maybe you'll give some advice. So if you could open my 2 links, I pointed in my comment above. Yeah, we have these 2 docs, and we discussed that we want to adjust this doc first, shared runners pipeline minutes quota, but I believe it's related to self-managed installs. So I could only add that we are not counting public on self-managed, and we count only private and internal. But what about GitLab.com? Do we want to explain how this calculation is made on a separate page on this GitLab.com, or do we want to gather it all together?
Yeah,
because these pages are basically one about self-managed, one about GitLab.com, but they're linked together, and it's a bit of a mess.
So
to make this line.
The GitLab.com, okay, yeah, the GitLab.com settings page can be whatever we want, but originally it was to document the differences between the default config and what GitLab.com uses. It seems to have had a bit of changed quite a bit over the years, also including things like our SSH key, fingerprints, and whatnot. But I definitely think we should document. We need to document on that page anything we're doing that isn't default.
Yeah, but do we want, sorry to interrupt, but do we want to document that we are enabling these no zero cost factors for a particular projects because we didn't decide yet on which we are going to roll out, or do we want to postpone this documentation until we get a full rollout?
I was mentally separating it between what does the code enable any person who's installed an instance of GitLab to do, and document that well. And that would be like, right now, I think there's not sufficient documentation of how the accumulation of those shared runner minutes works, and in what cases we do them. And when we add these minutes factors, I think that we would want to document how you use the minutes factors. And then we could document on the GitLab.com page the settings that we've put for those minutes factors that enable our accumulation on GitLab.com. So I was kind of trying to separate the difference between those two. Does that make sense, Alexi?
Yeah, but do I understand correctly that we are not showing minutes factors for self-managed installs for now? So they in the settings and so on.
I think that it's behind a feature flag, as I understood it. So, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but I didn't think that this code was specifically was not shipped in our standard distribution.
Yeah, but I thought that we are revealing these values to change them, to tweak them only on COM. But do you want to reveal them on-premise installs as well? So they could change the values, the cost factors, I mean. Because we have this runners configs, right? Where you could like put 0 or 1 or 2. But when we discussed it first, we decided that we would reveal them on COM only because, and we wouldn't reveal them.
And maybe I need some education here. I was assuming that that meant the code would ship as part of our distribution, but we would have it behind some feature flag that maybe GitLab.com is the only one who's flipped that feature flag that says enable shared runner minutes quota accumulation.
Yes,
that any customer could, if they decided to flip that feature flag, do so. And this is just my brain in the mental model that there's no software code for GitLab that is specifically unique for GitLab.com, and maybe I need to disabuse myself of that because I didn't know that was possible.
Okay, let's discuss it. I think I will put a note because that's an interesting note.
Okay. Yeah, and that was also based on how I understood it to work today. I thought it was in the distribution and behind a feature flag. And just GitLab.com was probably the only instance of GitLab that was using that feature flag.
So there is like, we have something in the GitLab that is part of the main application that allow us to distinguish that some features are only visible on GitLab.com.
Okay.
But so it's still part of the same code base, but we make clear distinction that this is only GitLab.com specific thing that is being shown.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I didn't understand.
So basically, do we want to enable to be able to enable this, to enable this feature on premise installs? Because currently in my implementation, I just put it under the flag. Like if GitLab.com, we could like adjust these values. If it's on premise install, we just hide these zeros and ones. So I could change it. I could put it under the feature flag. We will document it.
Is that however current CI shared runner minutes quotas are implemented today, we should just keep doing that. I don't want to make a broad-based decision about that change.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and sorry, I had no idea that was even possible. So that's kind of like a in-code unique feature flag just for GitLab.com. Yeah, not aware that was cool. I mean, interesting. Thank you. Things I learned today.
Do we still need an async follow-up then, or?
Yeah. Let's leave it here. I would like put some attention to it.
Okay. And then
Camille, you had that last question about bronze, silver, gold. There was a response in the issue from the legal team. We are allowed to make adjustments to accumulation of public projects to paying customers. It's not anywhere in their terms.
Okay,
so good.
So basically this seems to be resolved at that point.
Yeah.
We continue with what we decided so far.
Yep.
All right, that's what we have for the agenda. Any other topics we need to cover today? I'll take that as a collective no. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thanks, everybody.